Testing is everything. Ooh, I forgot to take my headphones off one more time. Okay. Testing is everything. And what does it mean if you don't have time or ability to test a game? Okay, so made this game called The Social Game, and we like to play it at conferences. And the concept is there's hundreds of people at this conference, and we want to get them all to play a crazy social game together. We've built social games that have been played by like 15 people, and so we're like, we could take those ideas and bring them into this. So we did it a year ago at a conference, and it was really awesome. It was really simple, and the premise was that you get to upvote and downvote somebody every hour. Uh, and basically, we just tell them the person at the top of the scoreboard is going to take home this money, this prize money at the end. It was a marketing gimmick for my day job, which is running this software development agency called Thunk. And so people could immediately dive right in and start upvoting and downvoting people. They could see the impact that they were having on the scoreboard. It was exciting. It was fun. It felt a little cheeky. It had this branding that was very like, like gold embossed letters on a black background. And it was just like, let's get rich. And it was this kind of farce. It was very dumb and silly. We had a great time. And from a game design perspective, it actually really worked very well because there was all this stuff that was like hinted to the player, hey, this is going to be a lot easier if you work in a group, right? So, for example, at the most basic level, you can't win the game unless you have a big block of people voting together. If there's hundreds of people voting and you try to vote to just say, I don't want this person to win and I do want this person to win. It's like your relative impact on the game is going to be very small, not to mention the fact that you don't get to upvote yourself, right? And so at a base level, it's like if you want to win, you need a bunch of people voting for you in a coordinated way. If you want to have any impact on the game, you need to be coordinating with people. But then there's one other layer, which was that if you leave the game, if you resign, you get to give your points to somebody else, which introduces all of this kind of obvious implicit strategy. Like if you had a big block of people voting together, you could be downvoting all the different people and then upvoting the one person you want to win. Maybe you've agreed to share the money afterwards. And at the end of the game, all of these people who you've nuked down into negative scores can all resign and hit your biggest rivals, right? So there's this implicit coordination strategy that was extremely successful. And one of the pieces of feedback I got from people was, hey, that's so cool. My favorite part was how I had all these reasons to go talk to people. There were hidden things in the game that would be like, hey, you have a secret alliance. If you guys upvote each other, you'll each get extra upvotes, things like that. And so you had reasons to go seek people out from time to time. I got really positive feedback on that. We had people tell us, I would love to do this at my work offsite. I would love to do this, at this other conference that I run. And so that's what sent us down the road to say, let's make this thing reusable and call it The Social Game and do it again next year, bigger and better and badder. So we did that. And we had a similar number of players, but I think from a game design perspective, it was much less successful. So what happened? That first game that we played was it was an adaptation of this game that we had made, Pecking Order, and we had tested it and played it so many times. I spent so many hours. We really deeply understood its design. And coming into the conference, I had this very high degree of confidence that it was going to work. I knew it was going to work because I'd seen it work with 15 people enough times that I just knew how it would work with, 300 people. And it did work. It was very, very cool. And I have built that into The Social Game. And it's funny because there was actually even a moment a week before the conference where I said, hey, Daniel, do you think we should just revert back to the old design because we know it works? And we decided, no, we want to try something else. So we tried something else. We built this game that is a team game, and it tried to lean into those things that we got such good feedback on, right? So my hypothesis was if that sort of implicit teamwork was so exciting, if having to go find a stranger at the conference was so exciting, if the communication required was so exciting, let's make it explicit rather than implicit. Let's make the game about that, right? And it didn't really work that well. So some examples of how we've tried to pull that off is, first of all, the premise is not that it's not an individual game, it's a team game. You win or lose the game as a team. So when you join the game, you need to join a team. And when you join a team, there's at any given time a challenge going on. An example of a challenge could be like, hey, everyone on your team needs to like input some text into a field. And if you all input the exact same thing, or the proportion of you who inputs the exact same thing will give you points, right? And so if you are highly coordinated and highly successful with getting everyone to submit the same thing, your team will get a ton of points. If your team is disjointed and not coordinated, you will lose a bunch of points. And then there's many gray area in between. Things like that basically are telling the player, you need to go be in communication with these people. You need to be coordinated and you need to trust them. Things get, a little bit more complicated than that. Not a lot more complicated than that, but it was variations on that theme. And I actually think that the design of the challenges was quite good. There were then opportunities to like leave teams and steal your points that steal your proportion of their points and take them to a new team. There were these things like these prisoners' dilemmas and these chances to negotiate with other teams and like punish them and give them negative points and these trust issues. I actually think the design of those individual challenges was like fairly strong, but there was this deeper problem that would have emerged if you could test a game like this, which was that people at a conference, when they don't know those people and they need to be basically like in like text communication or in-person communication with like potentially a bunch of people they don't know, that's really actually hard to do. And we were asking them to do something that was quite difficult. And that feeling that we had in the first game, which was you could jump in, vote, and immediately see your impact on the scoreboard, was gone. And instead, it was not clear what your impact on the game was. And what we said to you was go coordinate with 15 people you don't know on a kind of hard problem. And tons of people enthusiastically joined the game and then kind of checked out. And that was something that I didn't really predict. And I think I made it a little bit too hard, and I made it hard to engage, and I made it hard to get started. And then I said, hey, the trick to winning this game is communication and coordination. But I didn't really provide them with an easy way to communicate and coordinate. I provided like a link to a Telegram chat that was the main chat for the game. That's cool, but it didn't really land. At the end of the game, there was one team who really latched on and got super coordinated and got really focused, and they won, which was really cool. I was glad that it was not just like a random winner. Somebody who really got what we were going for, figured it out and won, and that was cool. Some people had a lot of fun. We did get to shake a lot of hands and have a lot of fun promoting the game. But it was interesting. It just reminded me, I was like, why doesn't this happen with my other games? Why was this such an anomaly for just like, it just felt flat. The engagement was not good. And I realized it's because the only way I know how to make games is just to test and test and test them. And this was a really weird case where I've tried to build a game that was custom fit for a big conference with hundreds of people. And I didn't get to test it because you don't get to go test that kind of environment very easily. And so I was actually really nervous coming in because I was like, I don't think I've ever like brought a game to hundreds of people that is totally untested. And it went not that great. So that's my self feedback on this for the future. Is I think we did learn some things about asking players to do things that are hard and not equipping them to do it. And just brings me back to the importance of testing. The good news is Social Game is packed full of other good stuff. And so we live to see another day.